It started with a letter slipped under the door, unsigned, unmarked, a single sentence scrawled in red ink. You're not supposed to live here. Most people would call that a threat, but it wasn't just a message. It was a signal that the walls you live behind, the rules you follow, the neighbors you smile at, aren't as harmless as they seem. Because hidden beneath the surface of every perfectly trimmed hedge and every freshly painted home lies a network of control, silent, invisible, and absolute. You think HOAs are about aesthetics? Think again. They're trial versions, beta tests, of a deeper system. A system where rights are illusions and obedience is bought with paperwork. You don't vote for them. You don't elect their leaders. But they can fine you, surveil you, even dictate the color of your existence. All without your consent. And when one man dared to build outside their domain, outside their approved perimeter, what did they do? They moved in. Not with welcome baskets, with lawsuits, with fake authority, with psychological warfare disguised as suburban policy. But that's not the dark part. No comma. The dark part is this. She believed she had the right to do it. Karen wasn't just some nosy neighbor with a superiority complex. She was the prototype. A puppet who thinks she's the puppeteer. But someone gave her the strings. Someone taught her to pull them. And that someone is who we're really talking about tonight. Because this isn't just about a neighborhood. It's about how small systems of control are replicated, scaled, and normalized, until you don't notice the cage anymore. Until you're defending it. What you're about to hear isn't a petty HOA feud. It's a story about power. Ancient power. Quiet power. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself because it already owns the courtroom. Stay with me. Because once I tell you how a HOA, you want to know how they built these cages without walls? ? Simple. They weaponized order. C, long ago. Long before neighborhoods had names, before property lines were carved into legal stone, there existed a belief that land belonged to no one, that nature, space, freedom were shared. But power doesn't thrive in freedom. It thrives in lines, in boundaries, in contracts you didn't write but are still forced to obey. And so they invented the Homeowners Association. Not as a service, as a filter, a behavioral control device disguised as community. You thought you bought land? No. You bought permission, conditional access to your own existence. Karen. She didn't understand that she wasn't defending a neighborhood. She was defending an ancient mechanism, a miniature monarchy where power is enforced not with soldiers, but signatures. Her clipboard was a scepter, her bylaws, a doctrine. And when she saw someone living outside the system, just beyond the invisible fence, she panicked. Because here's the real truth they never want you to say out loud. Every system built on obedience is threatened by a man who knows he's free. That's why she sued. That's why she fabricated violations. That's why she spent weeks documenting, plotting, lobbying. It wasn't just about paint colors or driveways. It was about authority. It was about breaking someone who refused to kneel. But she forgot one thing. Paper isn't power. Proof is. Because while she stacked binders full of policies written by people just like her, the homeowner held one single document, a legal relic, a forgotten subdivision file buried in county archives. The kind of record most people never even know exists, but it was real, it was binding, and it was about to detonate the entire illusion she built her life around. This is how true control works, isn't it? It never comes with chains, it comes with... The silence in that courtroom wasn't ordinary. It was surgical. The kind of silence that slices through illusions, when the spell breaks and everyone in the room suddenly remembers what truth feels like. That single document, pulled from the shadows of bureaucracy, carried no fancy seal, no golden crest, no dramatic flair. Just facts. And that's what made it lethal. It proved what no one in that courtroom wanted to believe. Karen had no power. Her entire war, her threats, her towering ego, all of it was built on fiction. Because the land in question had never belonged to the HOA's jurisdiction, not in 1997, not in 2007, not ever. She didn't just overreach. She fabricated authority and used it like a weapon. Now, look deeper. This isn't just one Karen's downfall. This is what happens every time a false system encounters real knowledge. It implodes, because real knowledge, the kind they hide in fine print and forgotten ledgers, has a quiet but unstoppable gravity. It pulls the truth out of hiding. It rebalances the scales. And it exposes the parasite. Karen wasn't the virus. She was the symptom. the convenient host of an ideology that's infected every institution you've ever trusted. Comply first. Question never. You've seen it. In school boards that censor what your children learn, in city councils that rezone without asking, in federal departments that regulate what you can and can't do on your own land, all under the illusion of order. But what they're really doing is testing obedience thresholds, finding out how far they can push before the average man breaks. But here's the twist. Most never break. They bend. They pay the fine, repaint the house, cut the tree. And they call it peace. But peace without freedom is just a prettier word for prison. That's why this courtroom scene wasn't just a legal win. It was a moment of spiritual warfare. When the judge ruled in his favor, it didn't just end the case. It activated a chain reaction. Like pulling a single thread and watching an entire tapestry unravel. Faster than anyone could stop it. The verdict was public record. That meant anyone, neighbors, news outlets, state commissions, could see the truth now. Not just that Karen was wrong, but that she abused her position, weaponized her title, lied to a courtroom, and lost. Badly. Within hours, the whispers began. Not about paint colors or driveways, but about her. The HOA board turned first. Those same allies who cheered her on during the witch hunt suddenly remembered their reputations were at stake. And reputations are fragile in these little suburban kingdoms. They called an emergency vote, 12-0. She was stripped of her title. Banished from the throne she built out of fear and paperwork. The woman who once ruled with citations and passive-aggressive newsletters was now just another homeowner. A dethroned queen watching her empire crumble. But that wasn't the end. No comma, this was deeper. This was systemic collapse. Because the legal fees, $4,800, had to come from somewhere. And that somewhere was the HOA's budget, meaning every homeowner had to pay, even the ones who hated her, especially the ones who believed her lies. Now they were being punished for following her lead. And anger spreads faster than control ever could. She became a pariah overnight. The woman who once enforced order with icy precision was now the symbol of chaos. And then came the real blow. The one she never saw coming. Her career. Karen wasn't just an HOA tyrant. She was a licensed real estate agent. One who had now used fraudulent legal threats to try and annex land she had no jurisdiction over. That's called malpractice. That's called ethical misconduct. And that's exactly what her broker heard about. Why does this keep happening? Why do systems like the HOA, small, local, seemingly insignificant, keep producing people like Karen? Why does every institution seem to rot from the inside out, replacing service with surveillance, leadership with domination? Because it was never about the rules. It was always about ritual. Control doesn't start in the halls of government. It begins in the cul-de-sac, in the board meetings, in the mailboxes. It's rehearsed in the minutiae, parking violations, mailbox regulations, lawn height ordinances, until obedience becomes automatic, until you start apologizing for the shape of your own house. You're not being governed. You're being groomed. And the HOA is the training ground, the sandbox, the simulation. They want you to get used to being monitored, measured, fined, to feel that soft pressure of a smiling enforcer telling you it's for your own good. Community standards, aesthetic cohesion, civic duty, all codes, all cloaks. The truth? These institutions aren't protecting value, they're protecting control. Because when you comply with things that don't make sense, when you alter your life for someone else's comfort, you weaken. You hand over your sovereignty piece by piece, until there's nothing left to defend. And here's what they fear the most. A man who knows he doesn't need permission. That homeowner wasn't just defending his land, he was resisting programming. He didn't argue. He didn't rage. He found the truth, held it up like a mirror and said, "Show me where I'm wrong." And they couldn't. Because truth, unshaken, unbought, unbending, is the one force they can't counterfeit. That's why they use fear, shame, social pressure. Because if enough people believe the lie, the truth becomes dangerous. And if even one man resists, others might wake up too. That's what this story really is. A signal. They want you to believe this was just a story. Just a petty neighbor dispute. Just one rogue Karen finally getting what she deserved. But you and I both know that's a lie. This wasn't about property lines. It was about power lines, invisible ones, stretching from city councils to federal agencies to shadowed think tanks you've never heard of. You think those HOA rules were written by your neighbors? Think again. They were copied from centralized policy templates, drafted by national real estate lobbies, backed by global finance. Control trickles down. It always does. And the HOA is just the prototype. Every government, every institution, every layer of the system we live in is designed around the same principle. Compliance through complexity. They bury the truth in layers, legalese, policy, bureaucracy. Because they know 99% of people won't dig deep enough to find the one line that sets them free. But that man, that homeowner, did. He cracked the code. And when he did, he proved something that threatens the entire machine. That the system only works if you believe in it. That its power is not real. That every Karen, every clipboard tyrant, every fake official loses their grip the moment you stand up, not in rage, but in clarity. Because when you move with certainty, with facts, with truth, the lie cannot survive. Now, here's where it gets real. How many more systems are you part of right now that you never agreed to? How many silent contracts are you living under because no one ever told you you could say no? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Today, tonight, every day forward. Because the HOA was just a mirror. What you saw in that courtroom, the collapse, the exposure, the silence, that's possible everywhere. The moment you stop waiting for permission. So let this be the beginning of your withdrawal from false power. From now.